This episode of the Pistonhead podcast has been brought to you by Quick Latch, manufacturers of quality push-button release hood pins and multi-purpose fasteners. Incorporating Quick Latch hood pins into your project car will allow you to no longer worry about reinstalling hitch pins or lanyards that'll scratch your paint from hood pin applications. Incorporating the universal mini Quick Latches into your build brings a wide variety of potential fastening applications, including bumper quick releases, interior glove boxes and access panels, engine covers, fuel filler lid latches, rear seat fold-down latches, ECU mounts, and more. They're also a good alternative to traditional quarter-turn fasteners that require the use of a tool to engage and disengage. You can check them out at www.quick-latch.com. That's www.quick-latch.com. Hey guys, welcome back to the Pistonhead podcast. On this episode, we finish off our Long Beach breakdown with Big Balls Bryan. We might call it the Big Balls breakdown. We'll see. Copyright. We get into top 16 going forward. Awesome episode hanging out with Bryan. We talk about all the controversies. I talk about my why I don't like WiseFab so much. You just have to hear it. And a huge announcement on the end of a joint project between myself and Bryan. So make sure to stick around, listen to all of it, and enjoy the Long Beach breakdown. Yep. So speaking of which, he faced Peter the next round. I think Matt against anybody else in that field would have made it to the top 8 or to the grade 8. But running into Peter is probably the worst thing that could have happened in the grand scheme of things. There's not much that you can do on that end.
I guarantee you there was a lot of split in the people who were choosing who they were going to see win. They want to win. Because you got two very, very talented, awesome. You got one amazing up and coming driver. He's got a couple years on his belt, and then you got Piotr. So, I don't know too much about his history, but he's definitely has given James Dean a run for his money and scares as well. So, I mean that's testament to his ability.
Yeah.
Now, and plus what we've seen from him last year. Don't get me wrong. But I had confidence that Matt had the capabilities of beating him. I honestly felt that, like, not trying to be like, I'm against the guys who were the best last year kind of thing. I really, watching Matt all day, I felt like, wow, Matt could really get this. Matt could really be on point with this. If he can stay on point with his chase, Matt has good lead runs. And that was where, it just sucked. I mean, Matt just, what is it? He rotated just a little too much, I think, is what ended up doing him in that battle. Yeah, it's just a tough one. He didn't spin out. I don't think he spun out, if I remember correctly.
He just lost.
He got lost proximity, like really bad. And that's too bad. But Matt is again, he's one to watch for this year for sure, because I guarantee you he got a taste of it and he wants the rematch. I'm sure of it.
So after that was Turk versus Dai. Turk taking the win on that one. I don't remember a lot about that battle. I think he just outdrove him.
I think it was that being those two drivers, I remember Ryan definitely was pushing a lot harder, and he was having a lot more confidence with the driver. Who was also a fellow veteran in Pro 1, that they knew that they could push really hard, and they both did. They looked really good together. It's awesome to see these chassis, becoming more and more into the sport. And it did come down to just the little things, just these little things here and there that just gave enough of an edge for Ryan to win. But they both put on an outstanding performance. That on what I would say is like one of those top tier battles that is just these guys both won, in everybody's book. It's just that by points, they had to give it to Ryan. The last time I saw a battle of that caliber was last year. I think it was last year between Denofa and Von Gittin. It was just so freaking close that, it's just they had to give it to somebody, and that's how I felt about it. I felt that was one of the best examples that you could watch for really, really clean, fast runs. Close together and drifting for the veteran guys that have been in the sport for a long time. They're still outstanding.
JTP versus Odie. Obviously Odie going out in that one just by spinning out. Just a driver mistake, and we've heard it time and time again. Consistency is what wins championships, and I think Odie's still got a couple things to figure out. Although I don't know what he changed in the off season, but something's not right. He was fighting something all weekend, and it showed up again.
I think he's trying new things. Odie is always being innovative. He's always tinkering with suspension. He's always trying to find something to give him that little bit more of an edge. And sometimes it works out for you, sometimes it doesn't. Mm-hmm. And this could be just that one event where it just didn't work out for him. But something I want to point out that I saw JTP doing when he was following Odie coming into the first corner is that JTP did a very generous gap. And I believe that his spotter was very aware of Odie's driving coming into the first corner by that point. And this is just my theory, but I believe his spotter told him, hey, just be prepared when following Odie coming around this corner. It might happen to you too, where he's showing a little bit of struggle into this. And sure enough, JTP gave that little bit of space, and he had plenty of room when Odie over-rotated to be able to just go right around Odie and finish the rest of the course.
Yeah.
So I think that's where I want to say, I want to believe that it was a spotter, driver, teamwork that played a role in how JTP wasn't over aggressive in chase, because that's the thing with JTP as well, is that he could be over aggressive, but he wasn't. He was reserved enough to be caution, but not too far back, and lose proximity.
Yeah, like if he didn't spin out an initiation or spin out the touch and go, he would have been able to catch him at the first outside clipping point. That's for sure.
Yeah. Yeah.
Another one, a rematch that I was hoping there'd be a little more sparks, but there wasn't. Frederick Osbo versus Christoph Splush. I was really hoping we'd have a repeat, but it seemed like they were both classy. They both drove very, very aggressively, very hard. That small car of Osbo's is quite possibly the best chasing vehicle because it doesn't have to whip. It doesn't have to carry a lot of length in the corners, and it seems like he can shadow guys at less of an angle, but like angled into their door.
Yeah, and being less of an angle. I mean, I get it. It's when you're chasing, a lot of them will have a little bit less angle. Some will have matching angle, but and again, this is their first competition in this car too. I mean, but again, it's incredible how. Yeah, I'm not going to get that far ahead. Let's just bottom line here. My notes, I was saying that both made mistakes that should have been one more time, but Osbo won.
Yeah.
That was, and I just wish I took more notes on the reasons why. But for what I saw between the two of them, like Osbo, if I remember correctly, coming into Bill's clip, where Bill sticks his foot in the corner. And when he comes off that cliff, he came off shallow and darted in really shallow into that second zone. And I can't remember what Blue's mistake was, but it just felt like it was a one more time to me. But the judges saw something differently. So
yeah, it's a tough position. I would not want to be a judge. That's for sure.
Yeah, it's a tough job, and it's just a part of the deal that not everybody's going to agree with you. They could be very vocal about it, but. On the side note of that, the judging overall, I felt was a lot more on point. They become better and better every year. They did some changes to their judging, where they were awarding a lot more to style. So we're just all still getting used to this change. So I mean, I don't think it's justified to be upset. It's just understanding how they're evolving their judging to give an award to the winner of the driver that really makes the best impact, along with following the guidelines of what they ask for, of course.
Mm-hmm. After that, we had James Dean versus Michael Essa. Best driving I've seen out of Michael Essa in a very long time.
Yeah,
but
go ahead.
Yeah, no, it's just sometimes it's too little, too late. That's all.
Yeah, Essa's got it, man. I think he openly admitted that he just didn't really have much drive time at all to practice during the off season. He's just been super busy with work.
Yeah.
He's a family man. He's got a business and he still wants to play. But I think that Essa got that little bit of that old Essa back when he first showed up on an E46 and blowing everybody's mind. It was looking like that again. And I was just like, oh, is Essa getting back into his groove? All right, I like this. I'm digging this. It's good to see. That I hope Essa continues to hunger for that. Not let that go, and to really just hammer it out there as much as he can. I mean, he has the potential with that car, and why not, man? Go for glory.
Yeah. We'll see. Another guy to kind of keep an eye on if he keeps attacking people as he did in that round. We should see good things coming from him shortly.
Yeah, it was minimal mistakes from both. And in that first battle, they did go to it one more time. That's right. So, do you want to go right into their one more time?
Yeah, if you want to.
Yeah, let's just do that. So since we're talking about the same two drivers, so they go to their one more time. And Essa was just like, he was doing it again. I was like, yes, that told me that this wasn't some fluke. He was determined to show that there was a reason why he was a champion. And it just sucks that he went that straight at the hairpin. I mean, who knows what would have happened if he didn't straight out there.
Sorry. Yeah.
Did, yeah.
Yeah. Sorry about that. And it makes you kind of curious as to what was causing that, but it's just, sometimes the other thing too is sometimes guys get into their own head and they make strange mistakes that normally they wouldn't, right?
Yeah, maybe him getting on fire, he started getting that nerve to push it a little harder. He's like, oh, I got more in this. I got more. Oh, a little too much.
Yeah, that's all it takes sometimes.
Yeah, that's true. It happens.
Yeah,
but Dean got it and he moved on.
Yeah, and that puts us into Matt Field and Alec Honadale. Once again, Matt still trying to work things out. Alec just continuing to impress. This showed a little bit, in my mind, a little bit of immaturity on Alec Honadale, just in the driving style wise. It still shows that he has a lot to learn, but obviously in this case was enough to at least keep things in track and get the big W on that one.
Yeah, something that looked a little off. I took a note here. He looked like he was off gas in zone 2, like right into that, and that's what looked like. They say Matt shallowed. Couldn't see. The judge say Matt shallowed, and that it wasn't Alec's fault. And I took that note off of what Ryan Luntain said, and I also notated here that I couldn't see that on live stream. From the live stream camera point of view, it looked like Alec just was off gas just as he was entering zone 2, which he should have been on gas that whole time.
Yeah.
And that Matt was
overreacting
to adjust to get, because he's expecting him to be on gas.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so reacting to keep safe. And then and that's what looked like it caught Matt off guard. And I thought they were going to call out Alec Honadale for that. But from my viewpoint, that wasn't the case. So.
Yeah. It's tough too, because the live stream only shows so much. And, I believe with the judges, they're able to access any camera angle at any time. So in their review, they can watch the same camera angle for that entire run, which might have shown a couple things that we couldn't see in the live stream.
Yeah, and that's what I love about Formula Drift is just how transparent the judges have been more and more and more every round, every year. And it's like, you know what, you can't ask if you don't understand something that's going on. They're telling you, they're not making shit up. And if you have a problem with that after what the judges call, then that's your problem, and some people just want to vocalize that. That's fine. But you understand that, this is the way the sport is. And either you got to just go with the flow here, man, and, enjoy it.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. It is a judge sport. So you have to keep that in mind. There are mistakes that can be made, but I feel like as long as the judges are able to justify it, and now that they have to justify it, I find they're a lot more accountable. And the other thing too is we've seen a lot more one more times because they know they have to be able to defend a decision one way or another. Yeah,
they're not letting a win go to somebody when they're still second guessing things, and that's really, really good of them.
Yeah, exactly. A super fun battle, probably my favorite battle of the entire weekend. Forrest Wang Von Gittin, just because it. Now, a lot of people are going to shit on me for this decision because Forrest did not necessarily hang it out the way that he normally did, but I think he did that because he knew the only way he was going to take out Vaughn was to trip him up. And Vaughn would have been expecting those crazy angles into those corners, and Forrest instead went shallow, took the risk, and just put on the heat. And was like, "Fuck it, I'm gonna try and beat him at his own game and outrun him."
Yeah, I think Forrest is learning to play some new strategies, and we saw that happening. We're seeing something from we never seen before from him.
Which is strategy.
Yeah, exactly, and it's playing. He's honing that in. I don't think we've seen really what that full potential of that strategy is, but he's definitely going to hone that in within the first couple of rounds, and he's going to have a strategy that's going to work very well for chase and follow in all his battles to work with his car. Now, here's the thing: you mentioned about how you remember how that ended, right?
Hang on.
That battle.
It's going to come to me. No, it's not coming to me.
JR led, and JR was throwing.
Oh yeah, right.
Ridiculous angle in that car. I mean, he was like, oh, you forgot what this was like, and he's like throwing it in the huge angle, like Forrest level, crazy angle into the side, and he was washing out the other way, and I think he got into that angle a little too much, and he ended up over rotating.
Yeah, he overcooked it. Yeah.
Yeah.
All I can remember is Forrest's lead run, just watching him go shallow. And now a lot of people shit on guys that so-called play games. I think that there is a definitive line between strategy and playing games. Like, strategy is the difference between if you're playing rock, paper, scissors, and your strategy is to always play scissors. I feel like that's what Forrest used to do. Be like, hey, I'm just going to go big. I'm going to go wide on everyone, and people are going to know that, but that's what I do. And in this, that's like him playing scissors all this time. And he went, you know what? Fuck it. I'm going to switch it up. I'm going to throw a rock, and no one's going to expect it. And that's kind of what he did.
Yeah. And I agree. It's, you have to have some kind, you can't just do the same shit all the time, because then you're absolutely too predictable. And
here, sorry to interrupt for a second. Here's something that people need to remember is that you can't change your suspension setup between a chase and a follow run. So Vaughn went into that expecting Forrest to throw big angle, expecting him to throw big smoke. So Vaughn's setup clearly indicated that that's what he was expecting him to do. So it, once again, rock, paper, scissors, he was expecting him to throw one thing and he threw something else, and his setup wasn't prepared for it. And we saw that in his lead run, because he was doing those crazy rate to angles and all that stuff. But because Forrest had a tighter thing, he wasn't throwing the same angle, but he was able to keep that proximity because it was a tighter suspension setup. Yeah. So I think that's why, and Vaughn may not have been used to it, because that is a very loose setup in general, but this weekend in particular, him and Chelsea, and I was going to talk about this for the next Chelsea battle, they were very loose this weekend, like very loose. Mm-hmm. So we saw a lot of bobbing up and down. But anyways, I can't remember what you were about to say, but you had something on the go.
No, it was just that the strategy is something that every driver has at some point or another to follow within what the judges are asking of you, and then within that within those rules, or within those requirements, I should say, you find the ways of being able to develop a style or a technique that you can kind of mix and match between the two, even depending on the driver you're up against. So I don't know. I don't know the specifics on a lot of the driver strategies, but Forrest was very obvious
on that one.
And and I think that's good. He's learning that part of the game a lot more going into this competition, and he's making it work. He's definitely a driver that can take strategies and make it work for him very well.
Yeah. And the last one of that series is Chris Forsberg versus Chelsea Denofa. This is where I really noticed someone said, "Oh, the car's bobbing up and down," and I think I replied on the group chat, well, a lot of these guys are coming on and off throttle really hard, but because of how loose their setups are and how long and heavy that car is, and because they build that car for a weight jacking and a weight transfer system, you just see it a lot more. Whereas something like Orlando or something with a big bank, Irwindale specifically, you don't see that up and down as much because they're just on throttle and modulating it very slightly. Whereas Long Beach, it's very on throttle, off throttle, on throttle, off throttle.
Yeah, and that was something that I think Denofa was trying to do on the initiation of his follow. Is like it looked like he tried a little too hard in the follow initiation, or he was trying to get at a specific point, and he was just like that bobbing feels like he's like just wrapping the gas, just waiting to like rough, trying to get it to where he could just floor it and then go and behind Chris, because Chris isn't taking off as soon as he wants to.
Yeah.
And so Denofa follows wobble initiation. Looked like he wrestled a bit with the car, bouncing a lot, then spins at the hairpin. Chris was just smooth and fast the whole time. Then Chris shallowed his lead into the second zone, and Denofa got a very solid lead. But Denofa pushed too hard and in the follow initiation. That's just, I think, just his that weirdness bobble of the car. I wonder if that's starting to work against them in the judge's eyes.
Because it's showing, because it's visually indicating their corrections.
Yeah.
It could be.
We'll see how the year goes with their judge calls and their drivers.
Yeah, it'd be interesting. That's for sure. So quarterfinals, as we're starting to near the end of this, Peter versus Ryan. Once again, Peter very much on fire. Just super consistent driver, always getting out to the edges. And I think that's kind of what it came down to, is just proximity to your clipping points, really.
It is, but I'll tell you what, man, Ryan Turek, he's like, but wait, there's more.
I know.
Just stepped it up even more. And you know what's great is it's like Essa did with Dean. Essa just like, oh my God, Essa got more of it, into that bag of tricks of it. He can push it more. We saw that with Ryan Turek, and Ryan Turek was really stepping that car into limits that we didn't see him push before this the whole day. And he did that against Piotr. So
yeah,
let's see. Ryan followed and stepped it up. Slight mistake, but super close. Piotr was clean and fast. Ryan led shallow and clip 1 in zone 2. Piotr was close and steady. Just was on him like glue, almost like a harpoon. I remember with the last year, like I sent I was on the chat. I sent a picture of the movie Speed Racer, where the last race, the bad guy driver shot this harpoon to attach to the car next to him and reeled him in. So they were like door to door. It was like that. How uncanny Piotr was just pulling into cars. And he was doing that with Ryan everywhere he went.
Yeah.
But not to, it's by no discredit of any means to Ryan. They put on one of the hottest follow chase runs of the day. And Piotr was the one who moved on. Yeah,
to have an excellent follow, you need to have a solid lead. That's for sure.
Yep. Yeah.
And I think people forget that a lot of the times, that you if you don't have a great lead run, 100 point run, it's impossible to chase it.
Yep. They complement each other very well, and that's something that that's something that needs to be understood as well, is like how much that lead and the follow complement to each driver and the judge's eyes.
Yeah. JTP versus Frederick Osbo. I don't remember much from this one. If you want to take the lead on that one, I might kick something in at the end.
Sure. JTP had a solid lead with huge angle. Osbo had a slight jump too soon, but stayed close. That's what it was. Like when they initiated, Osbo did kind of what Denofa was doing. Like Osbo, like he surged, like he had some gap in the initiation. And then like he surged up and then backed off. And then right when he backed off, that's when JTP took off. And so they started, he got this gap, but Osbo is very difficult a person to gap. And he didn't get much out of that. But so he stayed close enough. He was definitely in active proximity, and then just reeled him in as they went through the course. JTP almost lost it, and he almost lost it big. Like over rotated, and he made an incredible save to stay close.
I do remember that.
Back in. Yeah. And he was just, again, it was like the same thing happened to Matt Kaufman, the exact same place. Just a hair bit of over rotation, but they were still able to pull it around and save it back.
Yeah, we see a lot of that, right on the hairpin in Long Beach, where guys are like, they'll cut out, they'll cut that one clipping point a bit short just to like slingshot in, so the hairpin's a little bit tighter to kind of finish things off on a high note. On that note, do we know where the finish line was this year? Because fucking a lot of guys were driving straight through it.
Yeah, I have no idea.
I don't know.
Just know it's like in a reasonable distance from that hairpin. They just kind of just said, okay, that's just good.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so kind of moving on, a little bit controversial on this one, James Dean versus Alec Conondale.
Oh, man.
So there was a lot of back and forth as to whether or not Alec Conondale had made significant contact with Dean. Yeah, it's a tough one. Yeah, it's this kind of brings
I'm
me
thinking, yeah.
Yeah, this one I'll go off on a bit of a tangent here quickly.
Sure.
My only negative thing to say about WiseFab is that, you know, I mean, they're an amazing company. They develop things that nobody else has even come close to. But in order for them to keep them light, and in order to keep those suspension components into a crumple zone, they have to cut out a lot of material. So everything is webbed. There's very few solid pieces. There's very few large sections of sheet metal in any of them. It's all very webbed. So the downside with that is that when those start to fatigue, you may not notice and they'll just give way. And we've seen it happen to a lot of different guys. And I think that was part of the issue with what happened with James Dean there. Is that was just
so. Sorry, I would just to clarify. I'm understanding that it's like they kind of like the components start showing some wear and tear, and then eventually to a point where enough stress just from normal competition drifting, they just start giving in.
Yeah, well, so let's take a normal lower control arm. If you can picture just a regular generic control arm in your mind, it's solid mass, right? It is one piece of stamped steel. What they're doing with WiseFab is they would take that, but then to cut down, they would basically put it into a program that says, here are where your stressing points are. So you need just one strip of material to go to that stressing point. You don't need anything to fill in the webs because there's no tension on that point. So that keeps it lightweight. That also allows them to crumple once they've made contact. But instead of having like, let's say something that's 4 inches wide, they have like 2 1-inch strips. So if you have any flex in those components, they're only wearing on those little strips. So you may not see the metal fatigue. You may not see the constant hardening and then annealing of the metal as it goes through stressors. So that then softens it, weakens it, or makes it brittle, and then they just go. And that's what it looked like happened with James Dean, because he didn't say it was WiseFab, but everybody knows he runs WiseFab. And it was I want to say the passenger or the passenger side rear that went out on it. And we know he runs a WiseFab rear end in that. So that's what I think happened, is that it let go and then he was clipped by Alec, but I could be wrong. All right, well, that's enough about my rant on WiseFab. Like I said, it is an excellent company. They build insane products, but that is the only failing thing on them. But anyways, the actual battle itself, what did you take away from it? Like, obviously incredibly close. We saw some contact with the wall with Alec Conondale. James Dean kind of put on a good show, but it looked like really early on, at least in his chase run, he was seeing those WiseFab issues.
Yeah, I mean, Alec Conondale definitely was doing really good. Like, he was giving it everything he had to go up against Dean, and it sucks that the mechanical failure caused this battle to not be able to reach a finish. At least to be able to go all the way through. But yeah, it was really close, really close. And what the judges ended up saying is that they only judged off the first part of the battle, because I guess it was a 0-0.
Yeah, Alec Conondale straightened out pretty bad. Tapped the wall, straightened out, and then there's a 0. He continued the run, but then we saw James Dean kind of trail behind, and then obviously once he got into the horseshoe, that's when we really noticed that there was a mechanical issue. He tried to get some kind of drift going, but ended up just like crab walking sideways.
I think this is just one of those battles where it's a really sucky turnout of events. Where what could have been a really awesome battle. So it sucks. And really not much to say other than you just hope that these two maybe get a chance to battle again, and because it seems like anybody who goes up against Dean or Piotr, they seem to step it up another level. And seeing these drivers getting pushed, that much harder only means that they're going to be pushing that harder against each other, and that's kind of like the Daigo effect. I guess what's part of the Daigo effect is all the drivers are really like pushing hard against a level of driver that they've never been up against before. It's just because drivers from different countries, it's unmistakable. They have different styles. So seeing the two styles, pair up against each other in a competition environment is really exciting. So I hope that these two guys go at it again.
Yeah, for sure. Once somebody kind of sets a standard, everybody's got to follow it. So James Dean and Piotr coming into it, they've set a level now, and it may take a year or two before people really catch up with it. So we'll see. But Alec Onadale, really going up against a giant. We're starting to see him get back into his form. So I'm definitely excited to see what he's going to do in the coming years, coming events, sure. Really.
Yeah, so. Yeah. Like you said, I think this year is going to be the big year. We're going to see a lot of guys really pushing on Dean's door anytime they get a chance. So
yeah,
it'll be cool.
it's going to be nuts. It's definitely going to be nuts. Last round of the quarterfinals, Mr. Forrest Wang and Chris Forsberg. We see the return of the rivalry, whether it's there or not. It's a good story. I don't know if there's any actual personal animosity between the two. I doubt there is.
Yeah.
There might be that awkward, like, yeah, you did T-bone me, like, but other than that, I think most of those guys are good friends.
Yeah, it that proved itself after that battle was over, but we'll get to that in a second. As for how well they did, he leads fast with good angle off second zone, some just basically a really clean run, and you could definitely see that Wang was going for that on the line, but at definitely more speed type of run.
Yeah, you really see him slingshot out of the corners, like maybe not the best proximity to the walls, but once again, I think he realized who he was up against, and the way that he was going to be able to beat him is more with kind of that raw speed. So it is interesting to see him change up his style depending on the driver. Whereas it used to be he would just go, Wang it all out, or whatever pun you want to throw in there, right?
he Wang chucked it.
He Wang chucked it.
But Chris and Forrest are both outstanding, very consistent drivers, very different styles, even though both of them are, Wang has a lot of Japanese competition, but they both have lots of years behind them, and their personal styles are very apparent. And it's great to see them still being able to pair up and stay close. That first battle was a good call by the judges to give it one more time. It was just too hard to pick. I mean, they all both made these little tiny mistakes, and it was enough for the judges to go, we need to see this again. So
yeah. And did we? Well, I guess we can kind of get into it now. We found out later on that the clutch went in Chris's car. Do we know when that actually went? Like, was it before
in the middle of the end of the hairpin in the one more time, the very right at the end of the where Wang chased Chris. It was the second half of the one more time battle, and it was looking super good between them at the end there. It could have been another one of those like really indecisive where like the judges could have been split again, but that clutch giving out, and Wang did a really good job of not making that collision any worse than it could have been, because that close together. I mean, his car just went from drift to just immediate grip, and because his engine stalled. And Forrest got a nice little tap in there, but obviously he was good to go after that match was over.
Yeah, I was just curious if maybe there was, because they were talking about every time that Chris pulled the e-brake, the car would stall and then fire back up again. I was kind of curious if it was.
Oh
right.
Yeah.
It definitely gave out in that hairpin like that. It was dead at that point. But how long was he running wounded? Right? Did it go in the one more time, or did it go in the battle ahead of time?
I think it was in the one more time.
Okay.
It was probably who knows? It's just sometimes just weird shit just breaks in your car the worst way possible.
Yeah.
And he did the best he could with what he had.
Well, it's, this sport really does come down to consistency, and that's not only driver consistency, but mechanical consistency. So we do find that sometimes, and teams are reverting back to simple builds, dependable builds. We see the company, or a lot of teams dropping the stroked out, nothing against Brian Crowder, but for the more reliable stock 3-liter stuff like that. So
yeah, it's definitely a change in the what the priority is in building these engines. At the same time, the drivers, they're one of the greatest assets of a pro driver is the ability to adapt. Mm-hmm. So even though they get weird hiccups or bizarre malfunctions, but if they can make the car run and swing and be somewhat competitive, they'll take whatever handicap has been given to them and to keep competing.
Yeah. Well, it definitely turned out to be a great battle. It'll be amazing to see what they're going to be like on a different track with full mechanical ability. So
yeah, absolutely. Seeing drivers at 100%, which we've seen several battles like that at Long Beach. It's the best part of the show.
Yeah, no, that's definitely for sure. Trying to think, did we miss anybody else in there?
Did we get into the JTP Osbo one more time?
No, we didn't. We should talk about that.
Okay, JTP had a wild lead run, which was on point, fast, big angle, which, by the way, the angle he's throwing in that Mustang, and he's coming out of zone 2, I swear it almost looks like he's on the verge of completely spinning out. It just seems more catching to me watching him come out of zone 2 than most drivers, where I'm actually like, it's just like, you think he's not going to make it, and he still pulls it off. It's incredible how violent he's swinging that Mustang around. He's driving at 100.
He's driving at 100% again, where he was trying to be too conservative and it was getting him every time. So it's nice to see him back true to form again. It's also interesting to see the same chassis, another of the same Mustang chassis with another suspension change. Like, he's not three-wheeling, but the car looks a lot stiffer than the other two. The car looks like it's throwing a lot more angle, maybe not as fast, but it's just interesting to see how guys take the same chassis and make it 3 different ways.
Yeah, that's very true. And I think a lot of that is reflection on the knowledge being put into the suspension to be most adaptive to that driver, so that their style and way of competing can be utilized to its most. You really see the driver's emotion, if you will, really come through the car when the car is really dialed in for how they drive.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think that was definitely the case of JTP. We really saw him being able to be unleashed in one of the more considered out of control cars. I would say, just the way how wild it looks. It kind of outshined Osbo, I would believe, just simply on impact. I'm not saying anything bad about Osbo's driving, but it's just when he's up against JTP, seeing a big car like that swing around just has a bigger impact, in my personal opinion, than seeing that little Corolla swing around. But Osbo did what he needed to do to stay competitive, and that he ended up taking out JTP. He had a bit of a shimmy in his follow, JTP did, and then shallowed up a bit in zone 1, and he tapped the hairpin clip. So Osbo was just robotically, nailed everywhere he needed to be, and that's why he got moved on, I believe.
Yeah, I was admittedly, we were watching the replay here, and I noticed that when Osbo was heading back for the one more time when he goes onto his lead run, he's deliberately understeering and scrubbing his front tires. It was kind of interesting to see. You see a lot of guys throw heat into the rear tires, but seeing him go back, he was using that time going back, understeering the car and skidding the front tires. It was just, I don't think I've seen that before. I've seen them do it. I've seen them do it in the burnout circle, but never like utilizing it on the way back to the starting grid.
Yeah, it might be that he's not feeling what he needs to feel in the front tires, or that they have to be at that absolute point of the perfect grip at that perfect temperature, and anything less than that is a noticeable performance handling issue.
Mm-hmm.
So that could be a part of it, and that he's using maybe the tire behavior to kind of compensate for what they're still trying to dial in with the suspension to be able to keep the rear end out. But when it's grippier in the front, it allows the rear end to step out more.
Yeah, you can get away with a little bit more.
Right. So I think that's a part of it, because I didn't know he did that, but I can see as a possibility, my theory, that that's what his strategy is.
Mm-hmm. I'd be curious if we ever see a rule change about that, because we may see guys, doing burnouts on the way back to heat their tires back up or to heat cycle them. So I'd be just, they do their quick little 180 before they get back to grid, but I'd be curious to see if guys do like a rolling burnout on the way back to starting. So I don't know, just something I noticed, and I'm curious to see how something like that may develop.
It could go both ways, because the tires only last so long, even in 2 runs, with the way these cars, the caliber of these cars are. But yeah, I have nothing personally against, if they want to do a quick burnout just to get that temp back up before they go into the second half of the battle, or one more time or whatever.
Yeah.
I don't see any reason why they couldn't do a little preparation just to make sure their tire temperature is where they need it to be. Yeah.
Especially because you see a very large change in pressure when you do that.
Yeah.
So, so then obviously in that case, it came down to a kind of a tight decision, but Osbo ended up getting it and, moved on.
Yep.
So that would put us into the semifinals. So speaking of Osbo, that would be his battle against Piotr Vincek. Another one of those, like, greats against greats. It's interesting to see European drivers battle each other just because there is a bit of a style difference. I find when you see European drivers go against each other, they almost revert back to that style, as opposed to drifting in more of an American sense, which you see somebody like Osbo, when he's drifting in the States and when he's drifting in Europe, almost looks like two different drivers. And the setups are different. There's just a lot of it that's very different.
Yeah, I think it's because of exactly, the design requirements to build a competition car in the United States, or FD, I should say, is different from other series. And what they allow and don't allow in building the cars. I don't know. I mean, anybody can correct me if I'm wrong. If there's any other series that just straight up copies FD rules in car build. But as far as I understand, a lot of them are pretty different on this and that.
As well as course size and driver ability and stuff like that. That all will affect how you're going to drive in that series.
Yeah, because like some series will allow you to do way more changes to the car, the strut towers, or and all that stuff. Whereas FD is pretty trying to get the chassis as like the key performance product that you have to work around, instead of you making the chassis work around the way you want to drive the car.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we hear about guys having to shim, racks and cave members and stuff like that by like a 30-second to meet specs. So, Corey, we're talking about you.
Yeah. So but Osbo and Piotr, their battle in the semifinals is probably the battle. Actually, it is the battle of the day, in my opinion. They were never more than a foot apart each other from the second they left the start line to the end of the finish line, and both sides of the battle. It was amazing to watch. It was a great final battle.
It's definitely a display of two people with incredible raw talent. Coming from different backgrounds and vastly different chassis and engine performance. So when you see that, that's what always makes it interesting, when you have so many different variables going against each other, but able to keep a very tight tandem. Especially on transition, we see, as they're transitioning from side to side, one guy sucking back in, slamming it to the door, and then just sticking with that lead driver the whole way. And it happened on both sides.
Yeah, it's because they have confidence in each other. I mean, we saw this level of tandem between Castro and Dean last year. It's just that when you have that kind of confidence, there's a different level of how much you can push in your tandem battle, and I think that's why it's the Pro Series. I mean, we see so many close battles like this at this speed and crazy grip and walls everywhere, because these guys are at that level where they have the confidence to push harder, to stay closer, and still put on a good show.
And
so when there's drivers this good doing it together, you'll have these moments of brilliance and display of skill in drifting, and that's what makes the competition amazing.
Yeah, and like we said before, and I'll say it, a million times until it's beaten into everybody's head, it takes a great lead to have a great follow. You cannot, if somebody's way offline, unpredictable, changes the rate to angle, all that stuff, you can't follow that. You just do your best. You keep into a safe zone and make sure you don't get, caught up in their mistakes. But when you have a guy in front of you that's been running 90 plus, scores all day, you can stick tight, you can go door to door and not have a concern. And if they screw up, it's going to be obvious. So,
right.
Yeah, I've never driven on that level. I've never been that close to another car while tandeming, but at that point, it's got to be 100% instinctual. There's no looking and waiting. It's just, this is when he's going to go. This is when he's going to go. And, kudos to the spotters in these cases too, because that driver has to know how that driver's been doing all day to even attempt something like that.
Right. That's absolutely right.
So
having all that information is just crucial to the driver. That's what I like about it too. It's such a great, like a navigator to the driver in rally. You just have somebody who has this some way of having that outside perspective to help you focus and narrow in what you really need to be able to be competitive as possible.
Yeah, and really
awesome.
the only reason this battle didn't go to a one more time or go to Peter is just that right in the horseshoe, that just minor screw up. He threw it in. It almost looked like, I'm not going to say he did, but it almost looked like a slight brake check or a very quick drop in speed by Osbo, which caused Piotr to kind of tap into him, and that was it. But even with that, we see the sportsmanship where Piotr just walks up, clapping his hands, high five, man, that was awesome. You can see it. He's such an excited guy and just loves to be out there. So it's a good representation for the sport too.
Yeah, so I agree.
I think that's the only reason why that went to Osbo. It could have easily gone at one more time. And then the battle that everybody wanted to see but didn't happen. James Dean versus Forrest Wang, two S15s, both with JZs. It's tough to even speculate what would have happened because anything could have happened. It will happen again. I guarantee it. The way that these guys bracket up, the way that they are very close to each other in their scoring, the chances of them not lining up at some point in time this season are pretty slim. So. I'm excited for it. That's all. We can speculate for days, but at the end of the day, it's going to be the battle that it is, and we just have to wait for it.
Yep. Something to still look forward to.
Yeah. So on to what was one of the most unique battles in my mind. Just because you've got a guy who took a year off next to a guy that's in a brand new chassis. Not that really matters with Osbo, as well as the weird environmental aspect that kind of came rolling in with that sudden fog. I don't know how much that would screw with guys because you're chasing clouds anyways, but it was just kind of funny. Like it was almost ominous.
That is the bizarre weather that's out there. I mean, when I was out there in 2016, that was the big rain down. They canceled qualifying. But
Chris crashed his car immediately.
I thought they were gonna get hit with rain right at the last battle, and I was just gonna be like, well, this is still Osbo and Forrest both are known accomplished wet course drivers, competitors.
Very true.
I was just thinking that would be an awesome demonstration on their skills being challenged to each other if it rained. Unfortunately, we didn't get that. That's what I was hoping for. But that being said, this battle in particular, you and all the battles where Wang was up against, there was the obvious attempts of strategies and Wang with Wang and controlling just how much style he's putting in while still being competitive, and you could see it in his driving, how he's kind of like trying to make that balance depending on who he's up against or whether he's leading or following. Mm-hmm. So. Even though, you could see that Wang and Osbo, they went into it one more time. I mean, that is so rare to have the final battle be a one more time battle. But that just goes to show that, how hard they're both pushing their vehicles and their skills, that it was that difficult for the judges to decide.
Yeah. And I will,
little things. Yeah.
I will say, it did look like Osbo had a bit of an issue following Wang on their first run. I noticed, upon initiation, was not that tight, reeled him in, overshot him, reeled him in again. Like it was probably the sloppiest I've seen Osbo drive, but even him at his sloppiest is still, top 5. Like
yeah, you can tell when he's chucking up because he had to reposition his line to try to stay close. So but it was not enough for in the judges' eyes to Forrest driving was. So it looked like Osbo was just a little faster than Forrest through the course. Mm-hmm. But Forrest was definitely had that car way under control, more than I have seen him in this level of pressure in competition, going this far into the bracket. He definitely had a lot more control of himself because he wasn't always the biggest performer in Long Beach on competition day for FD's round.
Yeah.
But when a Super Motegi drift, for whatever reason, but actually, he came back to that last year. Last year, he ran Super Motegi. Okay. That was it. So, and he got first and third or second. I want to say second. He got first on the Friday and then second on the Saturday round.
Right.
So like a 2-day round. So he's got Long Beach down. And, and that Motegi Super Drift battle was in his old style setup too. So it's not like his old style was bad. It's just that I think that certain drivers are pushing a limit of that angle and style to where Forrest is kind of having to compensate his own personal style to be able to be competitive. And a lot of people disagree with his choice on that, or should I say don't like to see that. I would be more accurate, because they want to see Forrest do what he's more known for. And he's done that, in my opinion. There was like one lead run. God, I can't remember who he was up against, but he hit the initiation, tapped the wall, I should say. And touch and go, he tapped the wall, almost tapped the wall into inner zone, outer zone 1, runs and taps the wall in outer zone 2, and then just comes around that hairpin, almost perfectly. It's we could go back and forth and debate all the time, but I think Forrest he's just finding different ways to adapt, and he's allowing himself to do that more now than before. And the more he does that, the better he's getting. So I think we're just barely seeing the beginning here of what Forrest is really capable of when he really focuses on being a competitive driver more than just out there having fun. Now, not to say that he isn't, but that focus is starting to show. And that was what he openly said was part of his goal in coming back, was to be a regular podium placer.
Yeah,
he's going for the championship. So
no, and it's good. And maybe some guys on his team have chatted with him and said, "Hey, man, like, what do you want to do? Do you want to win, or do you want to just throw mad angle? Because if you're throwing mad angle all the time, you're only going to run top 16, maybe, and then your day's done. Whereas if you do things a little more competitively and use your angle as a strategy, that could get you a lot further. And that is what I think he implemented in the finals, in every round that he ran. He went, okay, can I throw a lot of angle with this guy? Can I run this setup with this guy? And if he could, he did. If he realized, you know what? No, because if I run that setup, I'm just going to get knocked out. Then he didn't. So, which is good. It's nice to see. I think that commitment, I guess, to style, he is kind of pulled back a little bit. Not that he's not committed to it, but he's now not letting it affect his results. Whereas before
he's trying
he would
to find that balance.
Yeah. It's not easy. That's for sure.
And that's what I believe this battle was, a big win for him, simply just gathering data that he needs to, when you really can't have your best data until you're up against the best. And that's what Forrest was able to do all day in Long Beach. So all the data they used and the things that they tried was working for them. And even though he lost against Osba, I personally think that they took it as a win for them, because they're able to understand a lot more about this change for Forrest, to understand how to make this change work even better in the next round.
Mm-hmm. And I'm not going to say he choked by any means, but I do think a little bit of the pressure got to him. But he is still a young driver. He hasn't been in FD all that long in the grand scheme of things. So he's got a lot to learn. But yeah, you're right. They definitely took getting second with a lot of they took all the positives out of it. We saw, Garrett dancing. I still have to make a GIF out of that. But yeah, they obviously had a lot of fun. They came out with something to prove. They've proved it, that they are able to compete with the biggest and the best. They're able to beat the biggest and the best. And I think it's only going to be good things from here. Hopefully he jacks his car up a little bit more for Orlando, because it is still kind of low, and that transition will just absolutely murder his rear diff. But no, I'm happy for him. I'm happy for Osbo as well. You've got to give it to a guy that came into this season with another new chassis, with very little testing, all things considered. We know custom everything, and an engine that blows every event. Like they go to that event knowing, we're going to swap 2-3 engines. Like it's crazy. I'm curious what it is that goes on them, but
more like, what's the purpose of them being able to making that investment, pushing that engine in such an extreme level? And I want to believe that there could be a partnership with Toyota.
I will guarantee
about that engine to really push the limits of it so much that they can finally come out with a performance version that's reliable. To kind of bring back Toyota's name back to the days of the 3S GTE, for in the terms of their 4-cylinder performance.
Yeah, I could definitely see that. We've heard of tire companies receiving back the tires from Formula Drift to check on how their tires do under the most extreme circumstances. So I can't see why Papadakis wouldn't be involved with Toyota in an R&D type of role. Talking about a guy who's incredibly intelligent, quite possibly the best builder at this particular engine, the best Toyota drifting builder. Like,
yeah,
why wouldn't you as a company say to him, hey, look, keep running this engine. We'll give you as many parts as you need, right? Like, we will throw parts at you, but every one you break, we need it because we need to look at it and figure out why it broke.
Yep. And I believe that this is all like, okay, Osbo, relax. I know it's a TC. We got to get through this. And now it's what is it? The IM? Or I forgot what the IM. Now it's the Corolla.
Yeah.
And all these like common front wheel drive cars, being converted to rear wheel drive cars, it's going to pay off next year because I think he's for sure getting that Supra next year.
Once it comes out. Yeah. Once it comes out, he's going to be one of the first in line.
They put the most into doing so much work for Toyota and that kind of development. I mean, he's got to get it by now. I mean, and I'm sure other drivers will get their hands on the Supra as well, but I guarantee you that Toyota will probably be giving more direct support to Oswald just because of the relationship. So it'll be 2019 will be the year to see the Supra return to Formula Drift, I guess, in a new chassis, and Toyota bringing a new sports car chassis.
Yeah, I agree. Well, I think that's a good spot, man. I think that's a good spot to wrap her up. Awesome event, dude. Thank you for doing this. I hope everybody enjoys it. If people want to hear more of this, please let us know because I enjoyed the fuck out of this.
Yeah, it's fun. I enjoyed watching the event, been taking notes, and being able to give a good breakdown. So yeah, if other people like seeing this, definitely let us know. We might do this again.
Yeah,
for the next round. So
definitely the nerdiest technical. Like I don't think anybody else is breaking it down in this type of way. So that's why I enjoy it.
For sure. Yeah, I like the run by run breakdown. It's fun.
Yeah, the Big Balls breakdown. I got to check on some legality to see if we can do that.
Okay.
Because there's the Big Brown breakdown for the UFC. So I don't know, Brendan Schaub's pretty big. I don't want him kicking my ass. But yeah, do you want to throw some plugs out? And then I figured we'll tell everybody after that about the big project.
Okay. It's 8-Bit Bryan is Bryan with a Y on Facebook. It's my driver page. I have another page, In Pursuit Films, where I got a GTA 5 Machinima short film that is going to be released in theaters May 9th. Locally here, I rented an auditorium and just inviting a bunch of friends and everybody wanted to come see it. It's kind of just a really, really big project I've been working on for almost 2 years. I'll be putting it online eventually, but I kind of want to take it around to show it off at different places here and there locally. Trust me, it's kind of hard to imagine, but it is something that is been put as a movie first and somebody watching play a video game second. I don't know. It's something that I don't think anybody's really ever seen before.
Yeah.
But those who have seen it already can attest to what I'm talking about and will agree that it is 100% worth watching the entire 49 minutes short film. So we'll update more on that when that becomes available online for those who aren't able to be in the Phoenix metro area, as I show it at different places throughohout the summer. I'm going to be kind of like traveling around with the movie, showing it off.
No, it's wicked. I'm hoping I can get an early viewing of that.
Oh yeah, definitely. When you're, we'll get into that.
Yeah,
we'll go ahead and get to that. So yeah, you're going to get an early showing.
Cool.
Sure, while you're here.
So what I kind of hinted at in the intro and just now, I am flying to Arizona next week. I don't know when this would come out, but soon, the 20th, I believe I fly out, and I'm going to spend the week with Brian and Paco and whoever else wants to be there, rebuilding the Lexus. So we've got a bunch of companies already on board. They're going to help us out. We are going to. Sorry, the Garrett dancing thing just popped up. Got a bunch of companies on board. They're going to help us. I'm going to lock my ass into a shop again for like a week, and then we're going to take it out drifting again. We're going to make it bigger, better, get you back in the seat, get you going sideways again. And I'm pumped, dude. I'm so excited to come.
I'm super excited too. I really enjoyed drifting that car. It sucks that it's been sitting like that ever since Desert Mayhem because of all the time and investment I've been making to my car, which unfortunately is just being delayed. But it's just by no fault of anybody. It's just one of those things. I mean, I'm not rich. You know,
You're not? Oh, I thought Maximum Driftcast paid you like $100,000 a year.
Oh, yeah, if that's what they're telling everybody. That's a bullshit. But no, they've been paying me with hot dogs, telling me it's still going to be currency when the apocalypse comes. So I'm just going to have the surplus of hot dogs and SpaghettiO cans. They're saying it's worth something, so I'm hoping you're right. But until then, it's a considerable project trying to get a 1J put in there along with the all the other goodies I'm trying to get this car built for. All of us kind of fall victim to this at one point or another when you're trying to get to a date or a goal with the car, and sometimes you don't always have the cards handed to you, even though you're doing everything you can to make it right. You just got to keep pushing forward and staying with it. So it only sucks because the delay is going to be longer for me to be behind the wheel. And when I had my opportunity to get behind the wheel, I kind of blew my load all over the track and destroyed the LS400. So I couldn't drive it anymore after that. So it sucks. But no, I'm super, super stoked about you coming down and you deciding to help me get behind the wheel. And of course, you'll be driving it too. And
I get to drive it first. I'm just saying, I've seen the way you drive. You got a left foot.
You guys go first. We don't know what will happen to the car when it's my turn.
Yeah, so. I just want one good lap, and then I'll be like, "Okay, it's all you again."
yeah. So I'm really, really happy and that you agreed to do this, and the help that you're giving me to kind of keep my faith alive and my motivation still going forward with drifting is uncanny. I'm really, really excited. We're gonna have a lot of awesome media. We're gonna have a lot of good time. We'll have, my brother is gonna be coming down to help us out. So yeah, I'm looking forward to it, man. It's gonna be awesome.
Yeah. So everybody, check out the links down in the podcast description so you can see where you can find it. We're gonna have stuff on Brian's channel, stuff on my channel. It's just gonna be everywhere. So the long and the short of it, I'm gonna lock myself in a shop for pretty much a week. Crash on Paco's couch, eat a lot of hot dogs, and whatever fast foods in the States that we don't have in Canada. That's my favorite, dude. Chick-fil-A, you don't know how good you have it. And then, after that week, we take the car out. What's the name of the drifting event again?
The Drift and Drag. It's Go Fast Entertainment's Drift and Drag.
So if you guys are in the Arizona area, if you're in the Phoenix area, come out, see the re-debut of the car. And come hang out, come say hi, and I'm just pumped. I'm just pumped to work on vehicles and hang out with everybody.
It's going to be a little bit more than what we saw last time. It's going to have a little bit more power and maybe a little more angle. We'll see. See. Yeah. So it's going to be awesome, and maybe we'll get some bucket seats put in the back and give some people rides as well. So
if we got the time, man. I
got the time exactly.
Got Bed Bath and Beyond. I don't know if we'll have time. All right, dude. Thanks again for coming on. And everybody listening, thanks again. Check out everything, Brian. We'll do this again, and I'm see you in a week.
Sounds good, man. Look forward to having you over.
All right, man. Have a good night.
You too. Take care.
Thanks again, guys, for listening to the Pistonhead podcast. Let us know if you want more of this type of content, more event breakdowns. I'm going to be going to 4 events this year, so I might be able to give some behind the scenes, some on-site location stuff. But make sure to check out everything with Brian and make sure to head over to our YouTube channel. We get new videos out Mondays and Fridays. Hit up the Patreon. That's starting to catch some traction. We're making some big decisions on that car build. And obviously check out the podcast. You're listening to it now. If you get a chance, head over to iTunes, leave us a comment and a review. It really helps. If you're listening on Android, just give it a share. Let your friends know about it. But we will catch you guys next week. Thanks again for listening.